Welcome, Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners to a brand new edition of the Pewter Report podcast presented by Briar Greaves Insurance. Protecting your assets starts with a company you can count on. So whether it's auto, homeowners, flood, boaters, or business insurance, Briar Greaves Insurance are the best in the business to speak with. Head on over to briargreavesinsurance.com or give them a call at 813-876-4166. That's 813-876-4166. It is a Tuesday edition of the show, and we keep bringing in the heavy hitter. So let's get right to it. I'm your host, Matt Matera. Joined with me is the face that runs the place at PewterReport.com, SR, Scott Reynolds. And joining us this afternoon, he's been with the Bucs for over a decade, a very special guest, Bucs Vice President of Player Personnel, Mike Biehl, joins the show. Mike, thank you so much for coming on. How's everything going?
It's going great. Appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. It was great seeing you talk about some of these draft picks after the draft, and we're going to have a chance to kind of dive into those. Also talk about the undrafted free agents that you guys have. You have a big weekend coming up. Is this kind of like, I guess if you look at the draft as like Christmas, this is like getting the chance to really unwrap the presents, take them out of the box, and see what they're made of, right?
Yeah, this weekend's always fun. I mean, you just kind of get to get everybody in town and meet them, really. You know, some of these guys, we're familiar with them from afar, and we've met some of them through the process, but it's just kind of a way to welcome them to the Bucs. And it's really, I mean, we get excited, but I think the coaches are over the moon. I mean, they haven't been back out on the grass in a long time, and
True.
They get to go out and do some coaching and again, kind of see what they're, to reference what you said, their new toys. Like they can.
Yeah.
So it's exciting. I mean, it's a fun weekend. You just want to be careful because these guys, have been on the interview circuit and flying all over the country, especially the draft picks. And so you just want to make sure you're being cautious and not doing too much. But at the same time, it's a great way to kick things off, being in the classroom, from a mental standpoint, and then just getting out on the grass and moving around a little bit and kind of seeing what we have.
Bucs fans and Pewter Report readers, viewers, and listeners, if you're not familiar with Mike Biehl, listen, if you're a fan of Tampa Bay's drafts, and why wouldn't you be? Because that's how this team has really been constructed. From one Super Bowl in 2020 to the next one, which I think is on the horizon. Mike Biehl has been at the heart of the draft process, starting in the college scouting department and working his way all the way up to a very well-deserved promotion, Vice President of Player Personnel. So congrats, Mike.
Congratulations.
Let's talk
Thanks.
about
appreciate that, guys.
Of course, yes. Let's talk about your background real quick. You're one of Jason Licht's first hires, right, back in 2014 with the team. You spent several years with the Chargers organization before coming to Tampa Bay. How did you get to know Jason, and why have you two worked so well during this process to really become, I think, the class of the league when it comes to drafting? I mean, it started off with a bang with Mike Evans in round 1 in 2014, but when you look at the success of last year's draft class and how excited we are about this one, just kind of tell us how that relationship with Jason came about.
Yeah, Jason and I we're very similar in age, and we started in the league around the same time too. And we both were scouting assistants, kind of started at the bottom and worked our way up. And as area scouts, though, you spend a lot of time on the road with area scouts from other teams, and especially in the springtime when you're going from pro day to pro day and things like that. And Jason and I just got to know each other through that process, and we're a couple of Midwest guys that kind of hit it off. We got a lot of the same likes and values, and it was just an easy relationship. And we had never worked together, before I came here, but we always had, a nice friendship. And I think we both respected each other from a professional standpoint. And, he had the opening of, director of college scouting when he got the GM job. And John Robinson was here as well. And I had the kind of same relationship with John. And I was lucky enough to get an interview with those guys and been here ever since.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of success along the way, especially last year's draft class as well. We do want to talk about this year's draft class, but, just real quick, how proud are you of the impact that so many of last year's draft class players were able to make right away? I mean, you look at Graham Barden, a first-round pick, but then you have Tyke Smith, Jalen McMillan, and then Bucky Irving was an absolute sensation. How proud are you of that draft class?
Yeah, we're very proud of them. I mean, and to do what they did as rookies is, it's pretty special in this league. It's it's hard to come in and regardless of position and make an impact like they did. So, I just think it's a testament to our scouting staff. I mean, you've complimented Jason and I, a lot here, and we appreciate that. But like, we couldn't do any of this without our scouting staff, and they just do such a good job. And I think that, again, to your point, we've all been together for so long that we've just kind of developed a process here that we think, is working well. And you kind of saw the fruits of that labor last year. And really for the last, I would say 5 or 6 years, and not that we didn't have great drafts, early on, but I just think that we've refined the process and we just kind of hit our stride here a little bit.
Yeah, it's always awesome to see, whether it's Jason, you, someone else. You're always giving credit to everybody in the organization, not just 1 or 2 people. So that's always awesome to see. On that topic of, last year's draft class, or maybe players even earlier than that, is there anyone that you have your eye on or most excited to see? Understanding you want everybody to succeed on this team, but anyone you're most looking forward to maybe taking that next step this upcoming season, whether it's a second or third year player?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, I think we all, especially that second year into your third year, that's kind of when you see guys hitting their strides. But one guy that I'm real excited to see is Chris Brazwell from last year's draft. I just think that, with another year under his belt and, pass rusher and D-line in general in this league, is hard to come in and make an impact as a rookie. And, Chris worked his tail off last year, and I think he's continued to do that through this offseason. And, we're expecting big things from him. I mean, he's a talented individual, and he's a great person. And I just think that you're going to see his work ethic come through this year, and hopefully we get a lot of production out of him. So.
Mike, historically, day 3 picks, they're hard to hit on. You guys have had some recent success with that for sure. You go back to Kate Otten and certainly Bucky Irving in the 4th round, the 5th round, Zion McCollum, Servassier Dennis. I think guys like Payne Durham and Devin Culp showed some real progress and signs of life from the last couple of drafts in round 6 and 7, respectively. What's changed in your scouting process to achieve such success in the later rounds? Not that there ever been throwaway picks by any means, but you guys aren't just drafting for special teams or depth. You're finding some legit starters on day 3. What's been the evolution of your process to really mine day 3 for some gems?
Yeah, and I would say that special teams is where it starts. I mean, usually that's kind of what you're looking for, and then if you get more out of it, then that's great, and we have. But and I'll go back to the scouts. Like, we do talk a lot about them around here and give them a lot of credit because Jason always says they're the lifeblood of the organization.
Yeah.
It's not just lip service. I mean, we really mean that. So, when you get those later rounds, a lot of times those guys, they're being overlooked for one reason or another, right? They're not like a first day or second day pick. And so we look for traits, and again, those traits aren't just athletic ability and playing ability. They're the people too.
Yeah.
And we don't change the way that we look at players based on the round. We're looking for the same qualities, 1 through 7, or even undrafted free agency. Like, we still try to stick to our beliefs and our philosophy when it comes to that. So, to me, the more players you can pick up, regardless of round, the better chance they have to make it in this league, because it's not easy, And Jason talks about it all the time too. It's not. We don't usually miss on the player; we miss on the person. And I think we've just got a process in place now that we're missing less and less on the person. And this league you're never going to be 100%.
Yeah,
you're going to have misses, and you just have to accept that. You just want to be right more than you're wrong.
Right.
For sure. Let's take a look at this year's draft class. The team started with the wide receiver Acha Eguae in the 1st round, and then actually bookended that with another wide receiver in Tez Johnson with the team's 7th round pick. Just curious how you feel overall about the depth at the wide receiver position, and how much were these draft picks kind of in preparation or insurance for avoiding what happened last season when Chris went out for the rest of the season and Mike was out for a couple of games. And even there was a time where Mike, Chris, and Jalen McMillan were out all at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, you can't ever plan for that. I mean, that's right. That's pretty rare. But I do think that the more depth you can have at every position, the better off you're going to be. And by no means is anybody ready to move on from Mike and Chris.
Right.
let's just clear that up right now. Like, I mean, we got a future Hall of Famer in Mike, and and Chris could potentially be on his way to that too. And we're super excited about those guys and what they have left in the tank. I mean, we don't think they're near the end. So, but it's just, when you have a good young player like Emeka and, what he brings to the table from on the field, but also, in the locker room. And we just think that we can continue to build that room with like-minded people that, are driven for success. And I think he fits right in there with Mike and Chris when it comes to the mentality that we want in that room. And then Tez it's going to be interesting to see what Tez does, because I think, he's one of those guys that probably was overlooked because of the size, but I mean, he's an explosive player that, didn't run a fast 40, but like you turn on the tape and you watch. I was at the Purdue game. I went to the game live, and I actually sat in the stands with one of my buddies, and I was like 10 rows off the field, and he was the fastest player on the field, and it wasn't even close. Like, he's just electric. And, so again, like in the 7th round, we're looking at Tez to come in and hopefully, compete to make it, and maybe be the return guy. I mean, we're going to give him, opportunities back there too. But we like the depth in our receiver room. We're still excited about, the Trey Palmers and Rock, Jarrett, and Ryan Miller. I mean, those guys, they stepped up and played big roles for us last year. So I like the depth of that room, and I like the competitiveness, the competition that we've kind of built there.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next point, is that there's going to be some great competition for some of those later spots at wide receiver with everybody that you mentioned, with Tez coming in, we were all at the Senior Bowl. We were very impressed with, what we saw from him. Electric in his Zoom press conference as well. But between Tez and Rock and Trey Palm, there's a lot of great competition for those finals.
And I didn't even mention Cam Johnson.
Yeah, Cameron Johnson.
Yeah.
We haven't even really seen what Cam Johnson can do yet. So we're all, excited to see him get out there and, see what we got in Cam too. So it's fun. I mean, it's exciting to have the depth in that room like that. And again, you guys mentioned it. I mean, receivers and corners, as much as they run and, as physical as this league is, there's always going to be injuries. And I mean, I just think the more quality players, Russell Shepard, we didn't talk about him and the role that he played last year. And so, we're excited about that room.
You mentioned cornerbacks, and I was excited you drafted in the Kansas State Wildcat, Jacob Parrish. Thank you very much, Mike. I think he's that kind of scrappy, fast nickel for you guys. But really, the guy that I want to talk about is Benjamin Morrison, right? This was a player that maybe if he doesn't have that hip injury, is he a first-round talent, like in your guys' eyes, in terms of what you see on tape when you evaluate the tape and not the injury? I've seen his name as a first rounder and Pro Football Focus and some of these other draft evaluation sites. How high was he on your draft board?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question. I think if you talk to most teams in the league, that he had to at least been, into the first round type player. I mean, you just, that's unfortunate that he had the injury last year, because I think he was, probably destined for a really big year. And I mean, I guess you could say it was probably fortunate for us, because we probably could not have got him in the second round like we did. But things happen for a reason. And, we loved everything about Ben. We love the player. We love getting to know him and the person too. I mean, he's another one of those guys that we're expecting to come in here, and, he's still going to be recovering from the injury and getting back into shape. I think that's the big thing. We feel real comfortable with the injury, but just getting into shape, and we'll take it slow with him through the rest of this off season. And hopefully by training camp, he's ready to hit the ground running. And, it's just, and there's always a transition for players coming in our league, regardless of how talented they are and, how good they were in college. And, you got a guy like Ben who, missed most of his last year and missed all the spring process. And so there's going to be a little transition there, but he's a sharp kid. I mean, I don't have any worries about him picking things up mentally. And although Todd Bowles' defense is a challenge for anyone, doesn't matter how smart you are.
Although he did say corner was the easiest position on his defense to come in and learn as a rookie. So
probably, but that's like saying that rocket science is easy compared to some of those other,
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
No,
I'm first brain surgery.
Yeah, that's right.
You're really splitting hairs right there.
Yeah,
but I do think that both those guys, and I'm including Jacob in that too. Like they're both sharp kids, and I think they'll come in here and pick things up quickly. And I know they're going to work their tails off to do that.
When you look at Morrison, he had the same type of condition on the other hip that he had to have surgery for in high school. When you're evaluating that and you look at that, okay, well, he had the surgery done on the other hip in high school. then he goes to Notre Dame, starts as a freshman, has 6 interceptions. Yeah, he recovered pretty well from it. Does that give you a sense of confidence that he has that in him to recover from this type of injury? And I'm not saying he's going to have 6 interceptions for you guys, but he's already kind of demonstrated, just like Chris demonstrated, the ability to heal, attack rehab, get back to being Chris Godwin sooner rather than later. Does that kind of help in the evaluation process?
Yeah, I mean, I would say it probably factors in some. I mean, I don't ever pretend to be a doctor and know, what's going on with those guys, and we'll leave that up to the experts. But I will say, to your point, like, he's been through it, and we do talk about that with injuries, with guys coming out of college that if they've never had an injury in their lives, you don't know how they're going to deal with it. You don't know how they're going to attack the rehab. You don't know how they're going to respond when they get nicked up. So. The fact that guys have been through it, and in Ben's case, he did have, the other hip, and he's kind of knows what to expect, I would think, coming through the rehab process. And, that gives you a little more confidence. But we leave that up to the doctors and Bobby and his staff. And once they give us the okay, then we're like, yep, we're going to go out there and we trust the film and, expect to get the Ben Morrison we saw when he was healthy.
Right.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see him when he's able to hit the field. Sticking with some other defensive players, the Bucs drafted David Walker in the 4th round, the outside linebacker, and then Elijah Roberts in round 5 along the defensive line. What do you think they're going to bring to the team, and specifically, in the trenches for this group?
Yeah, I mean, I think that David Walker, again, he's a small school guy that chose to stay at a small school, which is rare in this NIL transfer era. He just, had loyalty to the program, and, he had a chance to lead his conference in sacks for 4 straight years. And I mean, he had a lot of reasons that he could have left. Most of those are monetarily, but he chose to stay there. And again, I think we've talked about this a lot too. When you're looking at small school prospects, like we were with Ali Marpet and Kappa and some of the offensive linemen we've taken, like, when you watch the tape, they better be the best player on the field. And David Walker was always the best player on the field, no matter what game you turned on. I mean, he's a talented player. He's twitchy, he's strong, he's powerful. Like, he can bend, he can do all those things. But I think what really makes him special is his motor. I mean, the guy does not stop. And
he is a quarterback hunter.
Yeah, and not only that, but the run stuff too. Like, he makes so many plays, chasing from the backside and downfield. And so we're excited about that part of it. I mean, I think he's only going to get better and better as a pass rusher, but I do think that he has some natural, like, instinctive things that you can't teach, kind of like a la Shaq Barrett. Like, that's the way Shaq was. I mean, Shaq was good because of his instincts and his feel. It wasn't necessarily that he was the most talented guy, but he had a lot of success in this league because of that. And I do think that David has some of those traits. So, and then Elijah, I mean, I really like his versatility, and I think that Todd and our defensive coaches are excited about that too. And we're going to get him in here, and we're going to see where he fits best. But I do know that he's played up all along the line in his career. Starting at Miami and then going to SMU, and we're just excited to see what we get out of him. He's another one that we think can rush the passer inside and out, and and he's a heavy-handed, high-motor guy too. So we'll see what we got in that. But we're excited about those guys, and a lot of it because of the way they play the game with the physicality and the effort.
There's also a common trend with not just this draft class, but many draft classes that the Bucs have. But this year specifically, you draft a lot of team captains. I believe 4 out of 6 players in this year's draft were team captains. Can you just speak on the importance and the emphasis that the front office and the organization puts on finding those type of players, team leaders, captains, and falling in love with the player or the person as much as the player?
Yeah. I mean, again, it goes back to what we've been doing around here lately. It's just a lot of times when you're looking for the smart, tough, coachable, good teammate, the work ethic, all those things, that translates to being a captain. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, those are the guys that usually, because a lot of these places it's team elected, right? It's their peers. The players are the ones that are picking these guys. So, I mean, I just think that if they have all those traits that we're looking for, a lot of times that just lends itself to being, captain material. And, and that's not to say that everybody's this out front, rah, giving speeches type of leader, but
right.
There's different ways to lead. And these guys, some of them are like that. Some of them aren't. Some of them are they just work their asses off, and people respect that. And you can lead that way, and we have a bunch of guys in our locker room right now that lead that way. So I think that they're going to fit in. And I do think that we don't necessarily say he has to be a captain, but I just think it's a product of the type of players that we're kind of looking for, players and people.
I went back and watched some YouTube highlights just of SirVocea Dennis, just to kind of refresh. I mean, we were huge SirVocea Dennis fans when he came out of Pitt, 7 sacks as a senior at Pitt, had a great showing at the Senior Bowl. It wasn't just lip service, what we heard from Jason and Todd when it came to SirVocea Dennis and the comments about him this offseason at the Combine and the NFL annual meeting. You guys really like him. And that kind of showed in the fact that despite that kind of being a perceived need, because SirVocea has only had a limited sample size in terms of being on the field due to injury, you guys feel really good about him. How do you feel about the overall linebacker room now with the Deion Jones, I guess, showing out in that loss to the Commanders and being a veteran depth piece, and then adding Anthony Walker to go along with the return of Levante David?
Yeah, I mean, and I would, going back to your question earlier, Matt, like I would throw SirVocea into one of those players that we're kind of looking to, take that next step. I mean, he's been here for a few years now, but he just hasn't played a lot with the injury stuff. So, I mean, he's a talented guy, and our defensive staff has been excited about him, really since he got here. And a lot of that started with the way he picked up the defense and, the things that they ask him to do. And, you guys talked about it with Todd, like it's not an easy thing to do. So, I do look forward to seeing SirVocea, being healthy, and I think he's ready to take that next step. And then, to your point with some of those, with Walker and Deion Jones and some of those guys we've added, like, it's something that you're always going to be looking to upgrade every position. And again, it's what that room, special teams guys are coming out of that room. So that's something that we'll continue to look at, but we're comfortable with the group we have right now. But we'll see. Like our roster is not complete. It never is. We're always looking to turn things over and find ways to get better. But if we have to go to week 1 with the group we have, we're comfortable with that.
I try to remind people, you got a guy like Jackie Smith right before the start of the season. When you all got here, you got Carl Nassib right before the start of the season, in 2018. You signed Leonard Fournette the week before the season in 2020. Those have been some impact players that didn't go to camp with Tampa Bay, that were additions right up to the last minute. As we kind of switch over to the undrafted free agents, one of the players we were talking about, linebackers, is John Bullock. We know that Jason Light has an affinity for Nebraska players. You might too, being a Midwest guy. But what are your thoughts on him as the lone undrafted linebacker that you brought in? It had a really good senior season. This is a pick 6 against Purdue. I'm not sure if you were at this Purdue game or not, but just give me your thoughts on John Bullock as we transition to the undrafted free agents.
Yeah. We actually brought in Ben Scott too, one of his teammates on the O-line. Yeah. So we're getting a little Nebraska flavor in here. There's some influence in our front office. So, but John, I mean, we're excited about him. I mean, he's a guy that we thought would actually get drafted in the later rounds. And when he didn't, like we pursued him pretty hard in undrafted free agency. He's a guy that's tough and physical, played in the Big Ten. Like he understands, the grueling part of playing, inside backer. But yet I still think he has the athletic ability. I think he ran the mid 4.6s, so he's got some speed to, cover. And again, going back to what we were talking about earlier with the special team stuff, we think that he has a chance to at least be, a backup special teams guy and contribute in that phase. And but we'll see. I mean, it's undrafted free agency is a fun thing because, as you guys know, the draft used to be a lot more rounds in it.
Yeah.
Now there's 7, and this year we had 6 picks, but we knew we had an opportunity, and we've kind of attacked it that way since we've been here of adding guys that can contribute and help our team win. And we think that Bullock has a chance to be one of those guys.
There's a lot of guys, right, from DeMar Dotson back in the day to Adam Humphries, Cam Brate, that comes to mind. And then now in this roster, you mentioned Cam Johnson earlier, and Kayvon Merriweather, Christian Izzian. You guys have had some real finds as undrafted free agents.
Sean Tucker.
For sure. Talk about some of the names on this list. Who are some of the players that you're excited about? And I know that really this is kind of where the area scouts kind of get to shine, because these are guys they've really zoomed in on. But you got Desmond Watson on this list, Ben Chukwuma, who is the highest paid the highest paid undrafted free agent. Thank you, Mike Greenberg, for throwing the budget towards him. But this is a really interesting guy, the Georgia State prospect, who's only played 2 years of football. Who are some of the undrafted free agents that you're excited to see come Friday and Saturday?
Yeah, I would start with Ben. I mean, he's a unique story. I mean, really, he's a success story already. I mean, he moved here, I think, when he was like 17 years old. Him and his family from Nigeria, and he was a basketball, soccer player growing up, and I don't even think he knew what football was. And his senior year in high school, he dabbled in it a little bit. I think he played on the D-line, but they never really put him in games. And then he goes to Georgia State and just said, asked somebody one day how he could sign up for the football team. And I think the coaches saw him and was like, maybe we can got something here. And
right.
Like you said, I mean, he played a little bit in 23 and then, ended up being a starter for him this year in 24. And he's just a young kid that has a lot of, raw talent that, he's super sharp. He just hasn't played a lot of football and hasn't been exposed to the game. So again, I think part of undrafted free agency is identifying traits, and guys you think that have the potential to develop, and maybe they end up sticking on the practice squad for a year or two, and then you get something after that. But I think Ben fits that mold. I think all three of the O linemen we signed with Ben Scott and Jake Majors and him, I think they all three have a chance, to at least be practice squad guys and develop, and we'll see how that works out. And then Big Dez, I mean, he's
have to talk about him.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy just because, I mean, I think a lot of people just see the size and they just think he's just this big fence post that stands in there and takes up space. But the kid actually has some athletic ability in that body.
Yeah.
And he moves well for a large man. And, we got some work to do, and he's got some work to do, if he's going to ever, step on the field. But we're excited to, try to put in some time and see what we can get out of Big Dez. But we're excited about him. I think, and the other one I would say is J.J. Roberts, the safety from Marshall. He was a non-combine guy that we actually had a lot of excitement for, and we ended up bringing in on a 30 visit to get a physical on him just to potentially draft late. He's another one of those guys that, if we had multiple 7th round picks, we probably would have taken him, but we didn't, and then we just kind of attacked it in undrafted free agency, and we're able to convince him to come here. That's the hard part about undrafted free agency is it's almost like college recruiting, but the difference is college recruiting lasts however months it lasts. Ours lasts
Right.
2 hours, and it's done. So.
Yeah, exactly.
I was curious about Shiloh Sanders too. What intrigues you about him?
Yeah, I think Shiloh, I mean, just of course the pedigree, it's where you start, but he's played a lot of football against good competition, and he's shown the ability to take the ball away, and he's a physical tackler. We're excited to see what Shiloh can do too, for sure.
Now, I'm curious, you've been with this team for quite a while. So through your career with the Bucs, has there been any player that you were just a fan of, off of the jump, being like, we need to get this guy to Tampa, or whatever the case may be? Maybe you lobbied for him a little bit more that ended up coming to this team. Maybe he's still on this team. Maybe he was on this team. Is there anyone that kind of comes to mind for you in that aspect?
I'm trying to think of who the best players are because I want to sound smart.
Yeah.
I would just say that guys like Ali Marpet, I just remember that was one of my first years, and Ali being at the Senior Bowl and doing what he did down there, I just remember being
so impressive.
But that, again, that's not just me. I think that was an organization-wide thing that people get excited about. And then you get guys like Chris Godwin, who's, to get Chris where we got him in the draft, that's such a steal, and it's such a success story, and to going back to your point, Scott, with hitting on those later round guys, that's how you build depth. To my point of wanting to build depth everywhere, that's how you build depth, is just being able to hit on the later round guys. And if they come in and they end up being starters like Chris and Bucky and Cade and those guys, that's just, icing on the cake. But I mean, I would say those guys. Like, I'm always excited about our draft picks, but
For sure.
Right. We were texting earlier today, and I love your transparency. And I just think it's such a testament to the job you do leading the scouting department, but also the faith that you have and the trust you have in your scouts. When I asked you about like the tryout players that are coming in, and you're like, I don't know a lot about these guys. This is really where the area scouts help fill out the roster for the rookie minicamp. And some of these guys, might be the next one. Marquise Watts was a tryout player, right? That impressed you, that ended up signing. So are there any names here in this list? You have Jordan McLeod, who's a former USF quarterback, played at James Madison and then Texas State. There's an interesting running back, Tyler Echeverry from Mount Union on this. You told me about a Nebraska Kearney tight end.
Yeah, we got that's actually Vita's cousin, so we're excited to see him in here this week. These guys, I mean, the ones you named, I would say, we're looking forward to seeing all of them. But it's just the tryout guys. Again, to what I was texting with you earlier, like we go through this process, and I probably know maybe 400 guys inside and out, and feel really comfortable with that. But our scouts look at probably 2,000 guys. Yeah. So to think that I or Jason or Rob or anybody can know
experts on
those players like that, it's impossible. So that's why I always say, like, it's invaluable with, I mean, even the later round picks, the undrafted free agency, and especially with these tryout guys, like we rely on our scouts so much because they're the experts in their area. They know these guys better than anybody. So, and I, like, one of the most exciting things for me at rookie minicamp is to go out there and see the Cam Johnsons, the Marquise Watts, Adam Humphries was a tryout guy. Cam Bray was a tryout guy. Like to go out there and just look at everybody going, who's this guy? Like, maybe we have something here. Cause it's, I'll watch some tape on him, this week before we go out on the grass, but like, it's always fun to see those guys, jump out, and it seems like we have one every year. And again, it's a testament to the scouts and the guys that they're recommended to bring in. So, and it's hard because you go through undrafted free agency, and there's 32 teams that have already signed, 15 to 20 guys undrafted. So you're kind of getting almost the leftovers from that. Yeah. And we're still able to come out with guys every year, it seems like. So.
And you mentioned Tuni Fafita. That's Vita Vea's cousin, who actually played at Milpitas High School, where Vita Vea played, where he was a star running back and a linebacker. Didn't even play defensive tackle till they got to Washington. That's kind of cool. Another name on this list too, Dino Tomlin, the son of Mike Tomlin, the Boston College wide receiver, kind of a backup in college. But it's cool that you're, getting Mike Tomlin's kid in camp to give him a shot and get the experience of going through an NFL camp. That's a dream, I'm sure, that you're going to help fulfill.
Yeah, and I would say, like, guys like that, I mean, we're not just bringing him in because he's Mike Tomlin's son. I mean, he's earned the right, and the opportunity to be in an NFL camp, or at least a mini camp like this. So it's just, it's always fun though to add guys like that that Coach Tomlin, I'm sure he appreciates the opportunity that his son's been given, but we don't do things like that to do favors. It's because he's earned the opportunity, and so we're excited to see what he's going to do this weekend too.
Last question for me, Mike. How do you view this upcoming season? Is the Super Bowl window open in your eyes?
I mean, I think so. I mean, we've been a playoff team, for 4 or 5 straight years, whatever it is now. Like, I think that I'm excited to see what Baker's going to do, take another step. I mean, because as you guys know, this league revolves around having a quarterback, and we think that we got a real dude in Baker. And, and you can see the way that we've constructed. I mean, I think we got a really solid offensive line, and we put weapons around him. And I do think the additions that we've made on defense, we're going to be better there too. And hopefully we're better at getting to the quarterback and taking the ball away. I mean, those are the things that we needed to improve on. And I think we've added pieces that should help us. Not only the pieces we've added, but like we talked about before, the guys that were already here stepping up and, taking on bigger roles. So, I mean, I think this time of year, everybody's pretty optimistic, and, Super Bowl is always the number one goal.
That's right.
But I do think that we have a competitive team that we can go out and, compete in the South again and get in the playoffs and see what happens. It's once you get in the dance, it's wide open. We proved that in 2020, right? Like
that's right.
Didn't have the best, regular season, but
didn't have a home playoff.
We were by far the best team when we got in the playoffs. And,
that's right. Yeah.
The home playoff game of that Super Bowl was the Super Bowl itself. Yeah. One more for me, and we really appreciate your time. Speaking about that success, the Bucs have made the playoffs 5 years in a row, 4 division championships, and the one that wasn't was the Super Bowl, dating back to 2020. But how important has stability been for the success of this organization? Jason has been here for quite a while. Most of the front office members have been here for a while. Obviously, some guys come and go. John Spytek's now with the Raiders. I mean, offensive coordinators have been a revolving door the past couple of years, but because, the team has been playing so well. But you have Baker back with many of the guys on offense. You mentioned the offensive line, Mike and Chris. Levante David's back at inside linebacker. So how important has the stability been for this organization? Like, what does that do for a team when you have most of the same nucleus and core guys year in and year out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's invaluable. And I think if you look around the league, the teams that win every year, that's the common denominator.
Yep.
That and staying healthy. I mean,
right.
You have to stay healthy too. But I mean, it's a testament to the Glazer family. You know what I mean? We had some rough years early on when we were here, and this league is a win now league, and they showed enough patience in Jason and his vision and what we were trying to do. And then of course, we've had a lot of really good head coaches around here too, and Jason's ability to work with the head coach and the guys that we brought in and their personalities. I mean, they've been unbelievable, and Todd fits that mold. Like, it's just the relationship that we have as a personnel staff with the coaching staff is, to me, second to none.
Yeah.
So it's a testament to those guys at the top. And then, Jason's just done a good job of bringing in the right people. Todd's hired the right OCs the last 3 years. I mean, that's kind of getting old. Hopefully we have a little bit more stability there.
Agreed.
But it all starts with the Glazers and their patience with, the vision that we had and the team that we were building. And then, of course, that enticed, Tom Brady to come here as a free agent and help us win a Super Bowl. But to do that, and then with him retiring and then being able to bring in Baker, but we still have the same, core nucleus of players that,
right.
And again, it's the hardest thing in our sport is to find a quarterback. And we've been, fortunate enough to do that for a couple of times now.
Yeah, we have one question for you from one of our Pewter Report TV channel members, if we can throw it your way here real quick. This is from Nathan Elliott. Question for Mike. Were you guys looking for any defensive tackles in the early rounds? He mentions Vita Vea, not a 100% player, right? Not many defensive tackles are. Kalijah Kancey, unfortunately, has missed the start of the last 2 seasons in Tampa. Hopefully that changes this year. Hall's kind of underperformed, although he did have, to his credit, a kind of a breakout year, 5.5 sacks as a pass rusher. Was there a defensive tackle on the board early that you guys were possibly considering, whether it be in the first round or on day 2?
Yeah, I mean that's 100% there was. I mean, I think that there's always every round there's always positions, almost every position really, other than probably the quarterback, where you're looking at certain levels of players. And defensive line was in there, inside backer we talked about earlier was in there. There's always pass rusher, corners, like those positions are always, in our minds when we're going through the draft process. But at the end of the day, it's, we just kind of follow the draft board and we just take the best player. And sometimes, and I would say, like, just going back to the inside backer too, not to get away from the defensive tackle question, but this year's inside backer class was not like a really deep class. So
there's only 4 in the first 100 that were taken.
I mean, there was a lot of guys that we liked in it, but it's just, we had 6 picks, and you can't take everything and address everything in the draft. So that's why we use, the later rounds or undrafted free agency. And then, like we talked about before, the roster's not complete. There's other ways to do that. But, I do think, though, that, we have a pretty good group there. Even Gaines coming back. And we feel strongly about Elijah Roberts. I mean, he's a later round guy, but I do think that he's going to add to the rotation. And so we'll see. I mean, I would just say that we're comfortable with that group too, but we're always looking to upgrade, and the defensive tackle was definitely, in the mix at some of those earlier picks.
Yeah. That's great stuff. Mike, really appreciate you joining the Pewter Report podcast.
Thank you so much.
Congrats on another fantastic draft. We're going to be excited to see, your work in action on Friday and Saturday at the team facility for the Bucs rookie minicamp. I know you and your scouts are too. So congratulations again to you, all of the scouts that you represent on another job well done for this team as it continues to build towards the next Super Bowl, hopefully sooner rather than later.
It's awesome. I appreciate you guys having me on, and look forward to seeing you this weekend.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks so
it easy.
much.
Take care.
That is Mike Biehl, folks. He's going to be the next general manager. We have John Robinson a couple years ago, John Spytek this last year. Mike Biehl is going to be the general manager sooner rather than later. He's just too talented. Sooner or later, Matt, the NFL is going to wise up and they're going to say, "Gosh, who's drafting all these players? I know Jason Light is the general manager. We can't take him because he's the Bucs general manager. But who can we get to help us with our drafts?" And I tell you, Rob McCartney is an absolute gem of a front office guy too. That the new assistant general manager replacing John Spytek, but Mike Biehl right there with the man. This is a guy that, and there's both of them right there, Rob McCartney and Mike Biehl. Both of these guys have been Jason Light loyalists, but it's only a matter of time before the league once again poaches the Buccaneers. Hopefully it's after another Super Bowl.
Right.
But just an outstanding talent evaluator, how he and Jason and Spytek and McCartney and all those guys in the front office, Shane Scannell and Byron Kiefer and a lot of people in that front office have been responsible for the I am that man and drafting these good character dudes that come in as pros. I mean, Acha Eguae is the latest guy just to come in as a pro. Why do we sit there and say he's a Chris Godwin clone? It's the tape. He's a similar type player, but he's also a similar type person, worker. He's a professional. And when you have guys that come from the college ranks into professional football, already having that professional mindset, it's a smoother transition. It allows you to have success sooner and stay longer.
The Bucs wheel in talent evaluators in their organization the same way that they put together a wide receiver room with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Jalen McMillan and Acha Eguae. And, we're seeing the success of this staff now with, John Spytek going to the Raiders this most recent offseason. But we'll see. The players have to prove it too, but it wasn't like John Spytek made every pick last year. Jason's there, Beal's there, McCartney, everybody. So, while it hurt not having John Spytek, it just shows that, they have the next man up mentality too in that front office. So, it was really cool having him on. I have very high hopes for this team, and not just because he was on, but, for this draft class as well. And it just speaks again to the organization, keeping guys together, being able to, Bruce Arians used to always say we're reloading with talent. And I think the Bucs were able to do that, like with their front office too. Some teams, they lose one of their top two guys and the foundation just isn't really there anymore with certain teams. But I don't think that'll be the case with the Bucs.
No, I don't either. And, Nathan, I can't ask him who he was going to draft.
He's not going to come out and be like, we really wanted,
I'm able to get some nuggets for you guys. We talked about last year how if they didn't draft Graham Barton in the first round, who would they have drafted, right? And it wouldn't have been Jackson Powers Johnson, the Oregon center, right? I got that for you. It was actually going to be Johnny Newton out of Illinois, the defensive tackle. I don't know who the defensive tackle they really, really liked was. I know who it would have been if it wasn't Acha Eguae and it wasn't the defensive tackle. But, I can only do so much, right? I mean, there are some secrets that the state needs to keep, and the state being the Tampa Bay Buccaneers organization. But nice try, though. But we did ask your question, so we always appreciate your support. We did have a super chat here, and I apologize for not getting to it. I don't know if this was directed towards Mike or towards us or whatever, but Charlie Abrams with the $2 super chat. I'm interested in attending the Scouting Academy. I'm not sure what that is. I've never heard of that at one Buccaneer place. Is that just
they have the coaching academy?
Yeah, it's a coaching academy. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not crazy sure about the Scouting Academy.
Yeah.
But the coaching academy has been a pretty big thing for the Bucs specifically.
Yes. Yeah. And that's something that's not really in Mike's realm. He's more scouting and acquiring players, not necessarily on the coaching side. That's more of a Todd Bowles type thing. So contact the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think the window has already closed for the scouting, not for the scouting, but for the coaching internships and that whole process. I'm not sure, but just contact the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We appreciate your support, Charlie. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you. There is a scouting academy, but it's not like specific to the Bucs.
Right. Yeah. I think that sounded familiar.
Yeah. The semester kicks off next week. I don't know when the official like signups are done, but it kicks off next week. It looks like they have something in the fall as well. But yeah, if you're interested, I would just look into that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always been a draft Nick ever since I was a kid. I used to watch every minute of the draft back when it was on Saturday and Sunday. This is back when it started on ESPN. Then you had to switch over to ESPN2 way back in the day, and I've just loved it. And it's usually around my birthday, which is April 23rd. So it's like the league's birthday present to me. It's how I've always looked at it when I was a kid. Now that I have to work sometimes during the draft, on my birthday, it's like, okay, it's a job. I remember Cadillac Williams was drafted on my birthday back in 2005. Not the best birthday present. Getting the third running back with the 5th overall pick. Not a great value right there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Times have changed, huh? 3 running backs in the top 5.
Yeah, right. Isn't that crazy, Matt? It went Ronnie Brown and then Cedric Benson to the Browns. To the Browns. To the Bears.
Yeah.
And then that was the 4th overall pick. Then the 5th pick was Cadillac Williams, who John Gruden wanted anyways. I was at the Senior Bowl in 2005. John Gruden just got inducted to the
congrats.
Senior Bowl Hall of Fame. So congrats, Coach Gruden, for that. That's pretty cool. I was actually there at the 2005. And funny story. So I'm there. And this is back when it was at Lad Peoples, Matt. You remember the old stadium?
Yeah, I think I got there like it's last year at Lad Peoples, or maybe second to last. But anyway.
It used to be cool because there were like half the media members that there are now. There's literally hundreds. Back then it was like literally dozens. So you had better access. And you could roam everywhere. So like you're literally standing at the fence at the old Lad Peoples Stadium next to general managers, head coaches, scouts, personnel guys, whatever. So it was just a cool atmosphere. You kind of pop around and listen to what NFL people were saying. And I'll never forget when Raheem Morris was there. He was taking over as the defensive backs coach that year. And he, Raheem, he's just larger than life. He has an aura around him. He glows on the practice field, very much like his good friend and predecessor, Mike Tomlin. Those guys were 2 peas in a pod. But I'll never forget a couple of NFL coaches and execs standing next to me going like, who's that guy? Who's that guy right there? That coach, man. Who is he? And this was like Raheem when he was like 28, 29 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and he just was like the next big thing. You could just kind of sense it. And that was one of the things that kind of stood out to me from that. But I also got Tristan Wirfs on my birthday back in 2020. That was a good birthday present, right? It's April 23rd.
Definitely.
So
that's the best pick in the
I know. History. Yeah, for sure. That was the COVID draft when Jason Light was drafting at home.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was at home drafting and watching and all of that. And Roger Goodell was in his basement. So, I'm going to transition to an ad read right here. And my Mark Cook transition is not going to be in effect. But what I am going to talk about is because there's no basements in Florida. But you might have first floor flooding in Florida due to a hurricane, and hurricane season is upon us. If you live in a flood zone, this is very, very important. You have to have flood insurance. It's a separate policy from homeowners insurance. If your roof blows off, if you have roof damage, if you have damage that's not water related, your homeowners will cover that. But if you have any flood that affects your home or property, your vehicle, maybe out in your front yard or something, you have to have flood insurance. Not a lot of Floridians know that, and it really affected them back in the fall when there was that double whammy with the hurricanes that rolled through. So call Briar-Greaves Insurance. Make sure that your policy covers homeowners and flood and auto. They can help you with everything, including boaters insurance and business insurance. They're my personal insurance agents. Give Briar-Greaves Insurance a call at 813-876-4166, briargreavesinsurance.com. Don't get caught without the right insurance policy because hurricane season is around the corner. Not trying to scare you all, but living in paradise, it comes with some consequences every once in a while when Mother Nature acts up. So make sure you're prepared. The best way you can do that is give Briar-Greaves Insurance a call. They will shop around and get you the best quote. They'll save you time and save you money. It's a no-lose all the way win proposition. So give Briar Greaves Insurance a call. Can't recommend them enough.
Yeah, shout out Briar Greaves. Want to get to a couple of comments as well. Derek Taylor said, LFG, great effing draft top to bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send that message along to Mike Biehl.
Yep.
And Payday 39, thank you for being a Pewter Report YouTube channel member, says, great show, guys. Always good to show the front office.
Yeah.
Love, go Bucs. Yeah, I remember when we were on the Tampa Bay Bucs cruise, which was a ton of fun.
Yep.
And we were talking to one guy named Todd, and Todd was like, oh, it'd be cool to hear from like some of the scouts, area scouts and stuff like that. And obviously Mike Biehl has been promoted a lot, but he does come from that specific background. So yeah, it's cool to get somebody. Obviously we love getting the players on, which we have had players on recently. We're going to have another player on tomorrow, but it's cool to get different like factions of the organization too. So it was really cool having Mike Biehl on.
Yep. And right on cue, Matthew, a special guest tomorrow, Bucs cornerback Zion McCollum at 4:00. And that's going to be cool. A friend of the program, back for his second appearance. And we're excited to hear what Zion has to say about the upcoming season and about that defensive backfield last year that took some lumps from the injury bug with those repeated bites all season long. Zion kind of was unscathed a little bit. He got his bell rung, I think, at the first game of the season.
Yeah,
trying to tackle Brian Robinson, but was largely kind of the last man standing for the most part in the secondary, because you saw Winfield go down and Whitehead go down, Jamel Dean, Tyke Smith was out for a couple of games. So we'll get Zion McCollum's thoughts on the upcoming season. No show on Thursday this week. Why? Because we're going to be at One Buccaneer Place on Friday. Matt and I will be doing a show live from One Buck Place after Todd Bowles speaks around 3:30. So give us a little bit of time, but probably around 3:30, between 3:30 and 4. We're going to have the Bucs rookie minicamp day one recap. We're going to give you our thoughts about all of the draft picks, undrafted free agents, which of the tryout players looked cool and nice and look like they might be impressing this coaching staff and the scouts. So that's going to be Friday's show. No Pewter Insider this week, so just keep that in mind. However, we are working on a date for our Pewter Platinum get-together. And if you want to be a Pewter Platinum member, you can do so. It's the best way you can support our Pewter Report TV YouTube channels to become a channel member. There's different membership levels, though. There's all sorts of memberships starting at $3.99 all the way to $24.99. Our annual Pewter Platinum member meetup will happen during Bucs minicamp. It's not going to be at the facility. We can't get you guys in there, but it's going to be on one of those nights. Mike Greenberg has confirmed we're looking at Tuesday, I think that's June 9th, I believe. Let me look at my calendar here. We're trying to nail this down, and it will greatly enhance the chances of us trying to get a player there as well. We're going to even ask Zion if he'll come, but that would be it would be June
the 10th.
The 10th, yeah, June 10th is the day we're looking at. It would be 6:30 at Midtown Tampa Walk-Ons. Pewter Platinum members only. Make sure if you're a Pewter Platinum member, you email me your address just so I can have that, so we can get some stuff to you as well. Email me at sr@pewterreport.com if you're a Pewter Platinum member, and we'll give you all the details about that. It might be that Monday, it might be that Wednesday. We're still trying to work on that, on the date, but that's very important. So make sure you email me at sr@pewterreport.com if you're a Pewter Platinum member, so we have all of your information. We don't have that information when you sign up for it. That's a YouTube thing, not a Pewter Report thing. But we greatly appreciate that. One more other thing I wanted to mention. If you're looking for a place to golf, and why wouldn't you? Because the weather's still great. It's not too hot. Yeah. It's not too humid out. The place to do it is Heritage Isles Golf and Country Club, and that's in New Tampa. It's just down the street from my house, right off of Bruce B. Downs. It's ranked in the top 3 best value courses in Tampa and St. Petersburg by Golf Advisor. That's a nice little recommendation right there. For tee times, visit them on the web, Heritage Isles, or you can call them at 813-907-7447. And it is a country club that has a private membership, but also is open to the public. So if you're looking for a new golf course to play, make it Heritage Isles this weekend.
Just a little bit of Bucs news that happened. Greg Allman of Fox Sports reported that there are going to be 2 veteran players at Bucs rookie minicamp coming in on a tryout. That is running back Owen Wright and safety Gervarius Owens.
Mhm.
Owen Wright played for the Ravens, was an undrafted free agent in 2023,
Yeah.
played one game on special teams there. The interesting thing about Gervarius Owens, played mostly at Houston for his college football. His teammates with
Yeah.
Logan Hall, was drafted in the 7th round by the Giants, where Thomas McGahee, who is now the Bucs special
Right.
teams coach, was the Giants special teams coordinator. So a little familiarity there. Then he went to the Titans. But yeah, they will be there this weekend, or Friday and Saturday as well, just like Pewter Report. So we're looking
Yeah.
forward to recapping all of that. And of course, we have another fun show coming up tomorrow with Zion
Yep.
McCollum. By the way, did we hit a milestone today, Scott?
It's tomorrow, actually.
It's tomorrow. Okay.
Adam
I'm glad I didn't say
Slavon.
it out totally out loud
Yep.
yet.
Adam Slavon it was counting the shows, and it's actually tomorrow. So, quick question here from Nathan Elliott, because Matt and I were on the Bucs cruise.
Sure.
Any news about the 2026 Buccaneer cruise? Not yet. I've been in contact with the Tampa Bay Bucs cruise. They're still working out some things logistically for that cruise. Hope to have an answer sooner rather than later, but nothing yet. I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to have the cruise come, or I should say, leave out of Tampa rather than either Fort Lauderdale or Miami. So I think that's the goal. Whether they can achieve that or not, we'll see. But I mean, most Buccaneer fans are kind of in this area rather than 4 hours south, so it makes sense. We'll see if we can get some information sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Red Wit Dread says, "Smash the like." Yeah, appreciate that. Smash the like button.
Yeah.
And Hezo813 says, real quick, when is it Mike Greenberg's turn to come on the Pewer Report podcast? Would be a good interview. We actually had Mike on last year, and we'll work to have Mike on again this year. So stay tuned for that. We've got more Buccaneer players that we're working on getting for you as well between now and between now and the mandatory minicamp, which is about a month away. So we're working on that for you guys.
Yeah, so in the meantime, if you're not already doing so, please follow us on all of our social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram. We are at Pewter Report, and our YouTube channel is Pewter Report TV. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below as well what you thought about our interview with Mike Biehl. Maybe you have any questions for Zion that maybe we'll see before the show. Of course, you can super chat us tomorrow while Zion is on, and we'll get to that too. But yeah, another fun one. We're continuing with the heavy hitters with Zion tomorrow. So until then, for Scott Reynolds, for Mike Biehl, I'm Matt Matera saying thanks everybody for watching. And we'll see you tomorrow for another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.